Hey guys, it's Morgan from Sevendust, and you are watching my boy Richard Metal Fan on YouTube.
Thanks, Morgan. Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, and bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be looking into this album's 10-year anniversary, which is today, and it's from one of my personal favorite bands. I gotta show some home state love, and as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into Cold Day Memory by Sevendust, the band's 8th album released on April 20th, 2010, and through Asylum 7 Bros Records. Now, I don't need to talk about Sevendust if you're familiar with them. They're from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been a fan of these guys since I was 13 years old, and I've already covered 2 of their albums on the channel. I reviewed Home and their most recent album, All I See Is War. But I'm trying to delve into more of their other stuff. But yeah, but this album is a little bit different compared to their previous album, Hope and Sorrow. For one thing, this is the first album since Seasons to have the original lineup, since it was like before this album was released, it was after they'd done their previous album, Hope and Sorrow. Clint Lowry, the original guitar player, came back to the band. Yes, I feel like this pretty much kind of has that old school, the boys are back, and just has that kind of old school feel. And this album is a pretty good album. I remember first hearing this one back when I was 16, and I was like, damn, this is great. I have my copy, which I got in a long while ago. As you can see, it is signed by the band from when I saw them on New Year's Eve. I had VIP, but yeah, just vocally, John Witherspoon can do no wrong. His voice just sounds just really great. He puts so much emotion into his singing. I don't even know how the dude does it. The guitar work is pretty tight. Clint Lowry is back, and of course him and John Connolly's riffing is just, they riff like no business. The bass I kind of wish was a little bit audible. Vinnie Hornsby can pretty much do good holding down the low end, and drumming wise Morgan Rose can do no beast, and he do a good job with that video ID, so shout out to you, Morgan, if you're by any chance watching this. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Splinter, and it pretty much kicks it off and is immediately thrown in with some great palm muted riffing in your face, and they couldn't have chose a better opener for this album. Then Morgan's signature screams appears every now and then to complement LJ's vocals, while doing interesting drum fills here and there. Just an angry singing and a breakdown of sorts contracted by Lejean, heartfelt asking, am I a splinter of your life, and the bridge. Really great way to start off this album. Anyway, moving on to the next song on here, which is Forever. Which is up next, but for some reason, I don't know, I just can't get into it, despite the excellent drum work from Morgan. The guitar sections, I feel, are kind of bland, and the lyrics are alright at best. The short guitar solo is one of the many you'll surprisingly find on this album. It does help a little bit to help the overall quality of the song, but yeah. Moving on to Unraveling, which is the first single off this album, and it's pretty obvious why. It's one of the best songs on the album, and in my opinion, probably it's my favorite song on the album. It blends very good, beautiful lyrics to great instrumentation and a very passionate singing. And this is pretty much Sevendust at its best, with LJ singing the chorus, "I want the world to see you sold a broken dream. You weren't there for me. I was unraveling." Really good lyrics, and all the members in the band help write with lyrics of this album, with Clint being the main songwriter on this one. And the bridge is one of the few instances where Morgan sings rather than screams, and it sounds really great. It's definitely worth checking the song out. Anyway, moving on to Last Breath, and this is pretty much where the album slows things down a bit. It almost feels like Seasons a little bit all over again, except it's not catchy at all. Very melodic and safe sound-wise. Not much going on here, really. It's just easily forgettable. Anyway, moving on to Karma, which starts off really promising with a guitar adding textures and colors to the bass and drums. And the lyrics start interesting, and the song makes a very short and subtle build-up intro to the chorus. And the chorus isn't particularly bad, but John Connolly has some nice riffs in there. But sometimes you have to wonder how in the world the band comes to the lyrics is we all feel karma, I feel karma. This song with the cover up for Domo to the album makes people, I don't know. I feel like I like the song's potential. Let's just say that. Anyway, the next 3 songs we'll talk about is Ride Insane, Confessions Without Faith, and Nowhere, where I feel like these songs are kind of are just pretty much typical Sevendust. Where I feel like Confessions is another song that follows a similar trend. It's less about despair and more about hope, though. It's an equally catchy chorus and great lyrics. It seems to me that Sevendust's forte has become the softer songs. Not that it's a bad thing, but I wish Morgan would just get more pissed off often, because he's usually the one who writes with the heavier, angry songs for the band. And Nowhere over here, it pretty has a good, nice solo. It was a pleasant surprise, and these songs are the safest the band has in the album. I just wish they would have done more with them aside from adding just a couple solos. Here and Now, it's a pretty solid song. I like it. And nothing really else to say. The End Is Coming is, it pretty much brings the catchy riffing back. Almost kind of the guitars sound very new metal-ish around the time when they were part of the new metal back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I just love how the drums that lead into the verse with Don't Try to Run, which could be heard from Morgan's throat before the song just explodes into a chorus. No point of running where all hell breaks loose, apparently. And I feel like if I have to guess, I feel like Morgan sort of like writes most of the song. And the break is one of my favorite moments of the album. It's definitely a great, like, Divine Security, as was heard a couple of times before just like Morgan just breaks into screaming, and so the song ends with a solo from Clint. Better Place, which is the only song that did not receive radio airplay at all until like the album got released. It begins with is breathtaking. It's sort of like a ends up like sort of like post rock. Get it? Before you know it, the rapid guitar riff cuts in. It often like the drums just come all hell raising, and LJ starts singing as the guitar slows down, but it's still present at the end with a palm muted riff. And the chorus is slow yet optimistic, which makes a very interesting contrast with its mildly depressing verse. I could be wrong, but I feel like Clint is sort of like singing along with LeJean on there, just as they both did in the old days. And then the album ends on a heavy note with Strong Arm Broken. It doesn't let up from the second it starts, and I could tell who does the scream in this song, and they're different from most of the screams that Morgan does. It's pretty refreshing though. And once again, Clint throws in another solo at the end, and LeJean sort of like keeps singing Strong Arm Broken all the way through it at the end. It's a pretty decent song, but I feel like it's not a good way to close as far as I can see it. And they should have placed this song before. I feel like better place, since that would have had like just, I don't know, it just would have been a closer. Now overall, Cold Day Memory by Sevendust is a pretty solid effort from the guys. Good return, solid return from the original 5. So I'd give this album a score. I'm probably gonna give this probably a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. So yep, that's my review of Cold Day Memory, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.